whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
E ngā manu korohi, e ngā manu koroki, huri noa i te ika a Māo i tiki a Taranga whakawhiti i te tino moana o Raukawa. Ki te wai pounamu, tēnei te mihi a Māo a ko Tariao kia koutou. Nau mai hoki mai, welcome back to this instalment of Taringa, coming to you from Te Ipurau under the auspices of Te Wānanga Te Roa from the bustling metropolis of Te Awamutu. Tēnā koe, Tariao.
Tēnā koe.
Tēnā no tātou, and we have a very special guest with us. We've had lots of very special people i runga i te punua pāho nei. Tēnei te huri ake te mihi ki tēnei manu korohi no roto mai o Ngāti Koroki, Kahukura, kei te tuahine Pānia, tēnā koe.
Kia ora Paraone, kia ora Tariao. Whakamiharo ana ki tō kupu bustling metropolis.
Yes, you should see the peak hour traffic in Te Awamutu these days at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hoi anō e te tuahine e mihi ana kia koe. I know you're very, very busy with all sorts of things. E mihi nui ana te ngākau kia koe mō. E whakawātea nei a koe ki te kōrero. Me ki e whakapōreare ana i a koe ki te kōrero mai kia Māo.
Ai, ki te kōrero. Ai, pai ana.
So to those of our listeners that don't know who Pānia Papa is, Pānia Papa is one of the kaiako for Te Panikiretanga o Te Reo Māori. And let me read my shirt to make sure I get this right. The Institute of Excellence in the Māori Language. And she's had lots of cool shows on whakaata Māori such as
Ako
and
Opaki
and Pukuhohe.
Pukuhohe.
Yeah, just to name a few. And one of the things that she teaches in Te Panikiretanga o Te Reo is Karanga. And Karanga is our kaupapa today. We're back at Tikanga 101. But before we launch into the kōrero, we should launch our kīwaha o te wiki. And our kīwaha o te wiki is... Kīwaha. Ka ngangaro.
Ka ngangaro.
Let's go with ka ngangaro. Ka ngangaro, and maybe because we've got Pānia here, and she's a kīwaha extraordinaire, and ka ngangaro hails from our waka, maybe she can give a little whakamārama about what ka ngangaro means.
Ka ngangaro. Ka ngangaro. Timothy actually first taught me or made this kīwaha known to me through our kurereo. And according to Timothy back in the day, about 14 years ago, ka ngangaro, to him he was told by our kuia of Tainui and Te Arikinui no hoki, that ka ngangaro was a mihi to somebody if they had come out and wearing really flash clothes, or, you know, they were... flash looking, whatever. Ka ngangaro was they going to give me a hunga kumu paka. Ka ngangaro was a way to acknowledge or appreciate, show your appreciation of how well they looked, how good they looked. I researched ka ngangaro for our kīwaha book that Rahui and myself put together a few years ago now. And Nana Mere, Auntie Mere Daniels, she married my grandmother's brother. Anyway, she told us that it was about ka ngangaro was used in the context of somebody going away and coming back in a better state. So you might be dressed karukaru, dressed a little bit raggedy, then you're told to go back and get changed, come back out, and you've dressed in proper clothes. You know, your clothes are a little bit more appropriate for the occasion. So ka rere te rā kīwaha, that's when the kīwaha would be used. Ka ngangaro.
Ka ngangaro.
So in the present context, it's kind of being used a little bit like, oh, that's better, that's much better.
Ka pai. So like someone might wake up and kare rātau e horoi, they don't have a wash and they still got pikaru in their eye. And then you go, I'll go for a wash, and they come back and you go, ka ngangaro. Hey.
It sounds like a personal context you're giving from the mornings te praone, hoi anō.
Hey, koe nā tātātai kīwaha e te iwi, ka ngangaro. So you use it when there's an improvement. And you can use it in a lot of contexts. So, you know, if Tariao cooked tea tonight and it wasn't that great, and then she cooked for us again tomorrow and it was spot on, then I'd say ka ngangaro Tariao.
I like using them in different contexts, but I don't think our kaumātua quite are on board with that, using them in any which way.
Yeah.
Because I notice I use the context for ka ngangaro for kai, te hora o te kai.
Right.
And one of the dialogues we wrote was, the kai that was put out for the manuhiri was only a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went back and put some more kai on the table, and the kīwaha ka ngangaro was said. And I remember Auntie Mere looking at it and thinking, ooh, kai.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps it is only contextual or only aligns to kākahu or tāngata and perhaps not to kai. But I'm a fan of using it quite broadly.
Yeah. So maybe when people perhaps start off using it for the first time, they could use it when they're commenting on someone's appearance, or and then when they get a bit more confident,
that's
they
a
can
good
use it
idea.
for other things.
Always good to be safe.
Yeah, tika. Hoi no e te iwi, ka ngangaro, that's our kīwaha for today. And as you know, we have our little competition, Tariao, and I see how many times we can use it through the episode. And I seem to win all the time.
Yeah.
I think she just forgets. Hoi no, e mihi tonu ana ki a koutou, tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Hoi anō, e te iwi, tā tātou kaupapa, and just to reflect on some of our previous kaupapa, because we've talked about, maybe not at length pōwhiri, but we've talked about the components that make up pōwhiri. And we've talked about whai kōrero, mō te atea.
Mō te ata.
Koha.
Koha.
That was quite a popular episode, the koha.
Yeah.
And I think we've left one of the best ones for last. Maybe should have went first, because karanga is the first thing you hear when you come onto the marae.
Yeah.
And as I said, we're very, very lucky that we have Pānia give up some of her time for us today to share her whakaaro about karanga. Nō reira, e te tuahine, before perhaps we start with the obvious questions about what karanga is, maybe you can just reflect on your experience and your upbringing with karanga and what you saw when you were growing up and how you came to know karanga.
My upbringing was at Pohara Pā, back when we were kids. There were a lot of kuia alive back in those days. I was born in 1970. So we still had a lot of kaumātua alive around us. And the marae was thriving then in terms of tikanga and reo. Reo was the language at marae meetings and amongst the kaumātua themselves. The reo was really well and truly alive. So my kuia ake, my great-grandmother was Te Wera, and she wasn't a wahine karanga. Her daughter, which is my father's mother, her name was Te Reo, and even though her name was Te Reo, she had a shocking karanga voice, and she acknowledged it too, and I think that's why she pushed us mokopuna to the fore quite a lot. So Te Reo, she was a staunch lady, but when we used to have wānanga karanga at Pohara, all the women would stand in the wharenui and we'd just learn learn by rote. And we'd have a book in front of us that our kaumātua, Uncle Campbell Clark, gave out, or actually a few of our kaumātua, and it would go round and round in circles. And when one finished the karanga, the next one would start after that, and we'll go round and round. And I can remember in some of those days, this was when I was a teenager, you'd have our kuia, Te Wera on the floor, sitting on the floor, and some of the oldies, and then our nana was beside us with her glasses and her book, stuttering through her karanga, and then our mum, who's from England, she'd be there in the circle, trying to wait for her turn and do her karanga. Then our tuakana, so I've got two tuakana, Ata and Linda, and then I'm third in the list, and then our teina wiki. So we're all in there, and we're all in the mix of learning karanga together, which now that I think about it in terms of the old school way of learning karanga, it was highly irregular that all those generations were learning at once. But in saying that, I think it was also highly progressive. And I think that could be one of the reasons why karanga is going to be well looked after on our marae once it gets to our kind of younger generations, because there were 3 or 4 generations learning by rote at that time, all together in our whare, in the warmth of, surrounded by the warmth of our tupuna on the walls and our living tupuna sitting around us. So I think about it was a really special way to grow up in that particular tikanga. I don't karanga on Pohara because it's not my place to. My aunties are still alive and they're there and they're doing the do on the marae. So the right people are doing the job.
When is it the right time for wahine to karanga? Who should do the karanga? Koe nā kōrero.
I'm a firm believer in representation in terms of our tikanga. Even though I can karanga, it needs to be sanctioned by the right people in order for that karanga to carry its full weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's full wairuatanga, full weight that way. Wairuatanga, not so much weight, mana. I think that if you're the right person to do the karanga on your marae, your people will put you forward. Or you'll find that it falls that way. It ends up being that way because you're guided into that place. Because my two older sisters are alive and they both can karanga and do karanga in certain contexts. We've got plenty of aunties that are coming onto the paipai as kaumātua now, and they're able to karanga as well, and they want to karanga. Not necessarily as confident as the younger generations, but they can do it, and so they do it. They carry the mantle, so to speak. So for me, it's your time when your kāhui, when your group of wahine or kuia at your marae either push you forward to do the role because they see something in you, or they ask you to fulfill the role, or you just end up being there by virtue of the fact that you're the only one there with the skills.
Koe nā hoki. Now, in reflection and in your learnings and your own research, what is karanga? He aha te karanga ki a koe?
He kupu, whai oro. Essentially, karanga is, to me, two levels. One is vibration and energy carried through sound. And the second one is information. So when you put those two things together, kupu, information, messaging, and oro, sound, energy, vibration, those two things together make a powerful mix of energy that can transcend worlds or realms.
Yes.
So to me, karanga is the marriage or the combination or joining of words, information, messaging, and sounds, vibrations, to carry our emotions, to carry our wairua, to carry our messaging from one realm to another realm, and also between a realm. So within a realm from one group to another group. Ooh, that sounds pretty flash, actually. That's the first time I've said that in English.
That's deep, man. Unless
What do you reckon, Tariao?
Yeah.
Tino pai rau ati akara I paku hina wanawa te kiri ngā kōrero rā.
Oh, a rose pere, you te rā vibration.
It is. And I think it is. It's definitely a vibration. My kuia, she didn't, I remember she didn't karanga often because she got to an age, she left it to my auntie and others. But yeah, when she did, she definitely had that vibration. And one of the memories, and I think I've talked about it before, one of the memories I have of my kuia doing the karanga wasn't even at the marae. We had some manuhiri, well they weren't manuhiri, they were whānau, and they came to visit Nan at her whare. She always used to wake us up early and say, oh, kei tai mai he manuhiri, and I used to be thinking, what sort of manuhiri arrive at this hour of the morning? And we had to have the house cleaned and our beds made and everything like that. But on this one particular occasion, I think she was expecting some whānau to turn up, and they were kaumātua as well. And when they turned up to the whare, Nan was in the kitchen, and her door was always open. In the summer months anyway, the door was always open. Anyway, I remember them arriving and they're coming up the bottom of the steps, and Nana was in the kitchen and didn't realise they had arrived, and they sort of got up to the steps before she saw them. And she done a karanga from the kitchen. Yeah, and it was just a little one, but yeah, e mihi atu ana ki a rātou. And that was sort of one, and I hold on to that idea, and I don't know, I appreciate that karanga was a part of our lives, and the communication and the vibration. And of course, the square that came with some of our whānau, she replied as well. And it wasn't a long exchange, but nonetheless, and then they had their awhi and kātangi. And I remember when I was little, kareo tino mārama ki te reo, but it was the wairua I could feel in the karanga when the oldies, as you say, when they performed it.
Yeah, te he arare aroto pathway for emotions to travel on. Koe rā hoki te tehi tikanga o te karanga. It's another way I've described karanga in the past.
Pathway for emotions to travel on. Yeah.
Travelling, yeah.
Travelling kare aroto. Tino pai rau atu, he pai katoa e ne kōrero. So what are some tikanga attached to the karanga? Meki, ngā tikanga o te karanga.
Tikanga attached to karanga. In terms of 101 basics.
I got the first one. First one, you got to be a woman. Me wahine.
Me wahine. Yeah. I think that's a kawa. More so than a tikanga. Because the kawa are the more serious things that we should really adhere to. With the kawa or the karanga, the fact that there needs to be karanga as part of our, especially official meetings and ceremonies, it needs to be represented. In terms of tikanga, yeah, karanga for women, traditionally for women to carry out. And I think because of two reasons. One is women are the whare tangata, and the whare tangata is called or described as te whare o te ora on one hand, where the female element has the ability, physical ability and spiritual heritage, I guess, legacy, to bring other offspring into the world, to bring uri into the world, te whare o te ora. And then on the other hand, going back to Hene Nui Te Pō, the whare tangata is also called te whare o aitua, because that's how Maui got crushed. That's where Maui got crushed when he tried to achieve eternal life, immortality. And so te whare o aitua, it's a duality that gives females that power to transcend te ao o te ora, the living world, ki te ao o te mate, to the spiritual world, te ao wairua, and back again. So it gives us like a license to travel on that highway. And karanga is the vehicle we use to do that. So the female element is like the engine, I suppose, or the waka, and the karanga is like the petrol in the waka, I guess, to get us there and back. Ush, pē tēnā Tariao.
Yeah, taimata.
Tēnā pairawa atu.
Yeah, pairawa tēnei kōrero.
That's why it should be women that carries out this tikanga. We're seeing more and more nowadays that transgender people and even males who are born male but are now female because of a certain operation are thinking that or believing that gives them the ability to carry out karanga. But to me, unless the whare tangata is there, that's not the right license. You don't have the right license. And so I think that's a key message, is whare tangata. Then there are heaps of tikanga around protecting that vitality and protecting that ability to produce offspring, which is why I espouse or advocate that young girls aren't put forward to do karanga. It's a little bit cutesy, I think, nowadays, where people are putting up young girls to do karanga so that we can say, oh, look at that, oh, you know, she's doing her karanga. And kapahaka is also another culprit or contextual culprit for karanga being utilised in ways that aren't necessarily, to me, traditionally full of integrity. So that's another tikanga around karanga, is that you need to protect the woman that's doing the karanga, needs to protect her ability to produce offspring, which is why, you know, women who are menstruating don't normally karanga. At the end of the day, with modern technology, it's up to the woman to decide how she holds herself and what she does. There are consequences for every decision we make. But generally speaking, you wouldn't do a karanga if you were hapu or menstruating or trying to get pregnant, or, you know, you're in that phase of your life. So, you know, there are specific tikanga that are set aside or made by our tupuna to protect us and to keep us safe.
Tēnā koe. Tino hohonu pai e nā kōrero, he rawe, engari he mārama.
Ai.
Very clear and eloquent.
Eloquent. So if there were wahine out there who were wanting to get into karanga and had never been around that before, how would they go? Hiaha etahi, how would they go about that?
Hiaha etahi kōrero.
Yeah, mua wahine kare anō kia whai wāhi atu ki tēnei mea te karanga, e nehi ana ki te ako i era tuāhuatanga.
The best doorway into karanga is te reo. Because karanga is really expressing at the highest level your thoughts, your desire to manaki your guests. And you want to use the best words from your internal dictionary, from your puna, kupu inside you, to do the best job possible. So te reo is the best doorway to any of our tikanga. That's why reo and tikanga go hand in hand, because without one, the other one is bereft or not as vital. So te reo, learn vocab. You can't beat being around kuia and being in contexts where you hear karanga. So going to hui and just listening, to me, that's the best advice for anybody who wants to get into it, is go, listen, be seen that you're interested. Don't do anything until the time is right for you. In the meantime, just collect the little phrases you hear or add to your kupu, and then it'll be your turn. when they were used to teach us back at Maunga Tautari and Pohara, our kuikui, the likes of Nana Lizzie, Nana Mura, Nana Oli, and people from Ngāti Koroki and Waikato and Okawa will know those names. They used to say, because, back in the day, you didn't learn. You were given a task and you did the task. You carried it out when the time was right. And so some of our aunties in that grey area when the transmission of te reo was the haukotia that was cut off. And then we started having to learn te reo and learn our tikanga in a book and at a wānanga, etc. So back in the day when it was our kuia's time, some of our aunties used to ask them, so how do I know what words to say? And the common response from our kuikui back in those days was, you'll know. You'll know what the words are in the moment. And that just baffled everybody under the age of 40 at that point, because to know the right words to say, you have to have a real rich vocabulary. And if you didn't grow up in te reo and you had to learn te reo, then all of that becomes, new knowledge that you have to go and find. So you will know when the time is right, the wairua will come down, the wairua will lead you to the right words. It didn't really reach the generations below those old kuikui. And that's where we're at now. People's reo ability determines the richness of the vocabulary that comes out in karanga.
So ko nā tohu, whaia te reo I te tuatahi. Even though rote learning can be a doorway into karanga, but your best bet is to me timata ki te ako I te reo.
Yeah, rote learning is good in the beginning times, especially for wahine, for women who are approaching that age where, they're getting to that 60-ish age group and they're getting pushed forward to do the mahi. And if you haven't grown up in te reo and you're not confident, then you have to learn by rote. There's kind of no other way for that age group. And so there's a place for rote learning. I think the key for people like you, Tariao, who have grown up in te reo and you have that gift of having been through kura kaupapa immersion, is for us in our generation who have a good command of te reo to then check our aunties' words just really quietly and kind of secretly go up to them individually and check what their karanga might be and give them some pointers in terms of what the words are that they're using. And that could be a good way that we can bridge the gap between the generations, because you don't want to have whakaputa mohi or, know-it-all young ones saying, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, you're doing it wrong, when those people like me aren't available to go back at the drop of a hat to every single hui tangi on the marae. So we need to help the people that are there on the marae doing the do, representing the wider group.
Kia ora, just with the manaki of wahine that are starting off and aunties. Yeah, I've got a cousin, Tino Atahu Atana Reo Karanga. She's got a beautiful voice for karanga, it's very powerful, but she's a bit lacking in the te reo department. So every now and again I just pull her aside, quietly and just have a little chat, and I'll say to her, oh, he pai ne kupu. Yeah, and she'll say, oh, ka pai. And then she'll use them, even though he tāne ahau, but more au. And she's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust, high trust.
Yeah.
That's what we need to build.
Have you done a karanga yet, Tariao?
Ka.
Are you nervous that you're going to be doing a karanga soon?
Oh, not nervous. I think I know it's coming. So I've even though I've never done a karanga, everywhere I go for going to a kaupapa, I always try and think of something in my head just in case.
Yeah, ka pai.
I get pushed
go
forward.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
One thing for the younger generations like you, Tariao, is the vibration or the oro that you're choosing, the younger ones are choosing, are quite modern oro, quite modern sounds.
Yes.
And so I think what we need to try and do is to emulate as much as possible that traditional oro, that sound that our kuia would have let out in their day. So that we're not getting too Beyonce-ish in our karanga. And I'm hearing that coming out in a lot of young women these days. They've got the trills going on and, a different way of breathing. And it's about trying to sound really flash in terms of the oro. But really the sound is the thing that carries the message. So the message should be the forefront of your mind, what you're wanting to impart. And then the sound is an enhancer, not the other way around.
We're going onto a deeper level now of kōrero. But I've thought that because, and I know that whakataetae o kapahaka is a lot to do with that. Whakarongo anau ki etehi wahine I te papahaka and how they do their karanga, and they're using singing skills for projection of their karanga. and the te manawa roa te karanga.
Oh, yeah.
So some of them ngeteri, and they're like using a singing vibrato in their karanga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more tia and
Yeah, so you get the length.
Yeah, the ihi comes into it when you're in a whakapaipai context, I think. If you don't know what you should be doing, you get carried away with the ihi. So you find, you got on the kapahaka stage, you got wahine kai karanga, and pukana, and then all the action going on the side. And, I get taken aback actually when I see some of those kai karanga. And I think, I feel sorry for our kuia, who most of them are gone. We've lost a lot of that old school kōwhatu kuia, who would have absolutely hated seeing that kind of thing and probably would have made them quite fearful about what the future holds for that tikanga.
Tika.
So I think we've got to just be a bit careful with those things. We're moving in different circles and different contexts, and I think we've always got to take it back to the source and try and get as pure to the source as we can.
Tēnā koe. I think people are going to be highly enriched with this session, as with all the other taringa, but I've enjoyed this. E nui, kua tuwhera aku whakaro ki etahi o kōrero. E mihi ana ki a koe. And again, as I've said on previous episodes, that this is somewhat of a taster. Yeah. So we encourage you to talk to people in your whānau, in your hapu, your iwi, your kaiako. They could be friends. And this is to inspire whakaro within you and to invigorate you. I'm sure many of our listeners have been inspired with the kōrero today. And I think we've touched on some things that you wouldn't normally talk about in a 101 class. So, e mihi ana kia koe te tuhine, and I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can, any closing kupu, any whakaro, kei a koe.
Kia ora kōrua. I did want to just touch briefly on confidence level. If your confidence level is high and you've got the goods, you've got the type of voice that can carry a long distance, and you've got the desire to represent a wider group, a community, a marae, a hapu, an iwi, then that's the first stage for getting into karanga. The tikanga and things you'll learn along the way, but I can't really stress enough that te reo is the foundation, and having some good, strong te reo will see you through. Your wairua is right is another key message to make sure people get at the outset, is that your thinking, your thoughts need to be clear, and if you're sick, don't do it. If you're feeling a bit pauri, bit sad, don't do it. Don't do the karanga. Don't reach into tikanga when you're not right in yourself. So that's one of the lessons that I'm hearing from our host of Pānia and Tariao actually, who have imparted some of their experiences. Make sure you're right, your wairua is right, and then add to that the physical side of things, your dress, your punctuality, the words you use, the type of sound you make, all of those things you can practice, but you can't really practice the wairua stuff. You have to be integrity in that respect. So, kia kaha. Kia koutou katoa, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of these kōrero that our kuia have put inside my heart and my mind to share with you all today.
Tēnā rau atu koe, te tuahine nei māua e whakamānawa nui atu ana kia koe, kia taunga manakitanga kia koe, i roto i o mahi katoa. Haere ake nei, me ngā mihi o te pōhutikawa. I tēnei wā, e pū ana te pōhutikawa. Kare mohi o a tōna wāra ka whakapāhongia tēnei me pua tonu ana hoi anō hei a māku. Ka mihi tonu kia koe i tēnei wā o te tau. And to all of our listeners, e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. Ko tātou tēnā ne, Tariao? Or as Timothy would say,
so,
that's
Tariao,
we.
Tariao. So when his button on his shirt was undone, and then he did it up again, that's when you might turn across and say, ka ngangaro.
You're winning the ngangaro. You're winning the ngangaro competition now. Ngangaro tuahine.
Yeah. Kai Karanga, who wears shorts and then goes behind the bush and puts a long panikotio and comes out.
Ngangaro. Well, I remember my career again. One of her mates, there was another nanny, and she used to she knew pe he ana tikanga, but one time she turned up and we went to Huinchere, black panekotion with white polka dots, these little white polka dots.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and i riria ia e taku kuia.
Yeah, no specks of colour, no gold little fancy trim. Yeah.
Tēnā rawa atu koe tuahine, ka ngangaro. Moe no e mihi ana. Kia ora hui tātou katoa.
Tēnā korua.
Te kōrero o Tans Palm was mean, eh?
Tino pai ne.
Aye.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because she was so busy, I felt we needed to let her go. But I think we talked about enough in that 35, 40 minutes, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Koe tehi o nā kōrero I roto. And that's her holistic thinking about karanga.
Yeah.
So I think we got a bit more than you get with somebody else talking about karanga.
Yeah.
As we just didn't talk about the tikanga of karanga. Talked about some of the deeper things, particularly the wairuatanga, spirituality, and I like the kōrero about the oro, the vibrations and the sounds and things like that, and transcending realms.
Transcending realms.
Hey, tino pai rawa atu.
I'm still like coming to terms with all the kōrero.
Well, he rau I te rārawimi, that's a really good resource, as are all the podcasts we've done, but hei awhina hoki a koe,
Aye.
I roto I au mahi, pāna ki te karanga. So there was some really good kōrero in there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought she'd done very well speaking in Pākehā.
I know. I was like, it's weird hearing her speak English.
Yeah, and it was actually weird talking to her in English. I think that's the most English we've ever spoken to one another. So to all of you that are listening, that's the most English I've ever spoken with Pānia. Tino hoa māua we only speak Māori.
Yeah.
So I think even that, getting her to speak English, goes to show... Yeah, lucky she did, because she could have said, no, kareo pirangi kōrero kei te reo Pākehā. But I think even though she spoke in English, it was still from a Māori worldview, and it was still whakaaro Māori.
Aye.
Koe nā I pai ai. Koe nā I pai ai. Hoi anō e mihi tonu ana ki aia. Ko tā tātou waiata?
Our waiata is He Kākano Ahau.
He Kākano Ahau, composed by... Ho he patami hana.
Oh, eh?
Another one of his waiata.
Oh, man.
And this was composed for the group, aku mihi nui kia maimoa, te rōpū o maimoa.
Oh, yeah.
But this, it was composed for...
Aria. No.
Aria.
Oh, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, true.
So this was composed as a waiata for them.
Yeah.
And still a very popular waiata. Yeah, I think that Aria and I think Ngauru Whetū was the other group.
Oh, yeah.
They paved the way for some of the...
Definitely.
Yeah, these rōpū waiata Māori I tēnei wā, along with the long history of groups that have, sung waiata Māori from way back. But yeah, this song was from the time of Aria. Anei tā tātou waiata e te iwi, he Kākano Ahau.
He Kākano Ahau, iwi amai, irangi a te ao. And I can never be lost. I am a seed born of greatness, descended from a line of chiefs. He Kākano Ahau. Kia rau e hi teki ana ka mau, tonu I ahau oku tikanga. Tōku reo toku oho, tōku reo toku mapi maurea. Tōku whakakai marihi. My language is my strength, an ornament of grace. Ka tū ana ka uhi au ki oku sipuna. My pride I will show, that you may know who I am.
was our waiata in our show for the week.
Hope you enjoyed the kōrero and the waiata. Hei tautoko i ngā kōrero. And I think that was quite appropriate. Rangi Aotea, he Kākano Ahau i ruia mai Rangi Aotea.
Right.
And that again is a whakatauki. Koina. Ka ngangaro.
Ka ngangaro.
Yeah, well, that wasn't really right how we used it, but I think we just wanted to plug it in there, eh?
Chuck it in there.
Hey, kia kaha koutou katoa. E te iwi, it is with heavy heart
So,
that I must say farewell, or we must, to Tariao, but she is moving on.
yeah.
So this was her last episode of Taringa with us. Nō reira Tariao, nei e mihi atu ana ki a koe. Nā tāua nā au tēnei kaupapa I whakarewa I runga I ngā iri rangi, iri upu rangi. Ngā iri upu.
Yeah.
Kao I runga I ngā iri rangi o te ipurangi. Nō reira tēnei au e mihi atu nei. Thank you very, very much for your contribution you've made to Taringa and also to te reo Māori I roto I tēnei kaupapa. Me ngā kaupapa katoa I konei I te ipurei, I te ipurau. Ngā kaupapa katoa I konei I te ipurau. I raro I te maru o te wānanga o te roa. So thank you very, very much. Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to take your place, Tariao, at the moment, but e mihi atu ana. And I'll let Tariao say goodbye to everybody, but before she does, I just want to say that we're going to put together a bit of a, I don't know if it's a montage, but it's a mishmash of it's a mishmash of funny moments on the 30 or so episodes that we've done on Taringa. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
That'll be interesting.
Hoia no kei a koe, Tariao.
Tēnā rā tātou. I just want to thank everybody for putting up with me over these last 30 episodes. My ditziness and all. But if anyone wants to take over, send your CVs into Paraone. Nei hihi ana. But yeah, nah, thank you. E mihi ana ki a koe. Kei te tungane and to Morgan and the team who have worked so hard over these last few months, putting it all together and doing all the behind the scenes things and
it's come a long way, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. That we've come this far. So,
yeah.
He tika katoa mihi. Kia
nah.
mā. What are you going to miss most?
Te noho me te kōrero. Koina pēr te mea nui.
Yeah.
Getting to talk to our kai kōrero that we get in. Yeah.
That's definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
I know some people I've got messages from or that I see, you know, that listen to Taringa, they say, oh, it just sounds like you guys are just sitting there talking. And I'm like, we are. And I think that's what has made Taringa a success. Tika, te Māori o te rere, te Māori o te wairo o te noho. Yeah, so e tika taku kore, e pono taku kore, I'm gonna miss you on here.
Yeah,
engari,
miss you too.
Nā tēnei kaupapa, nā tāua tēnei kaupapa I whakarewa. You know, when you get unge.
Yes, yeah, I'll be back.
Exactly, or you can just push play.
Might not want me back.
And listen to any of the episodes we've done. Hoi no e mihi atu ana.
Tēnā koe.
Oh, you should have recorded that. Unless they do
want a piece of armpit?
Yeah, you want?
I don't.
Even if it was shaved, I wouldn't want a bit of your armpit. It's Tariao said, I nearly said Tariwa. I nearly mispronounced their name.
Tariao.
That sounds quite cool, actually. Might be a name for something else.
So that's our first podcast for the week. Oh, God. Oh, man. Kia ora whānau. F***ing hell. Kia ora e te whānau.
Oh, hell. Right, here we go. Ka pai tō.
Whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai hare hare mai o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani kani move that body, kani kani move that body.
Taringa, he mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.